So the big tax question is this: how do wealthy people keep their money working for them when selling their business, real estate, or other highly appreciated assets without paying hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in tax? What if we, as business and real estate owners who have poured blood, sweat, and tears to growing our wealth, and who didn't hire expensive tax attorneys and CPAs to map out an exit strategy, knew their secrets? Instead of recreating the wheel, why can't we just model the way they deferred 30 to 50% in tax, paid off debt, funded their next business dream, and most importantly, leave a financial legacy to give to the causes we believe in most? What if their secrets weren't complicated at all, and you just need a guide who is a few steps ahead of you? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Brett Swarts, and welcome to Capital Gains Tax Solutions. Brett Swarts here, Capital Gains Tax Solutions. Excited for another show. Our guest is Jerome Myers out of North Carolina. He is a coach. He's inspirational. He is a multifamily expert. He is an engineer. He is a West Point graduate. Father was in the military. Just really encouraging mom. He has a great story, as well as some practical guidance. And really, we're going to talk about how to dream big, how to pay the price of admission, how to get financially fit, how to really add value to properties and save, in particular, looking for ways to save in the expenses. And for his scenario, it has to do with utility costs and saving utility costs and reimagining the way you look at expenses for multifamily properties. So we're going to get into all of those things, as well as opportunity zones, on this episode. Here it is right now. Welcome to another episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe that if you have a plan to defer capital gains taxes, you can create and preserve more wealth, especially if you couple it with in real estate investing and looking at ways to either 1031 exchanges or opportunity zones. When you have a plan and you have a strategy that's proven, it will help you create and preserve more wealth. Hey, I'm excited about our next guest. You know, many apartment owners, they struggle with, finding ways to add values to multifamily deals, or even if they're just newer to investing. Our next guest really helps those who are looking to grow and overcome stagnation through one-on-one coaching, but also through just showing how to buy apartment complexes and fix them up. And so he's on a mission to develop people in places by holding over 1,000 doors and freeing 100 people from the work they don't love. In other words, if you can quit your day job and or get some passive income on the side, that is what he's all about. So he's a coach at heart. He is what I've gathered so far. And this is one of his quotes that really resonated with me. He says, "I clearly remember accomplishing my first goal and the rush of exhilaration that accompanied it while chasing and catching a dream. And not long afterwards, I helped someone else succeed at one of their most challenging pursuits. The rush returned, and at this time it was greater because they shared their energy of fulfillment and sense of true happiness with me. My life was changed forever. From that day forward, I have actively sought opportunities to support others in their pursuits." So please welcome to the show, Jerome Myers. Hey, Jerome, welcome to the show.
Brett, thank you so much. You set the bar so high. I'm not quite sure where you got all that stuff from, but I'm grateful for you to share that with the folks, because it is an accurate depiction of how we got to where we are today and the fuel for where we're going in the future, man. So thank you.
I love that. And you can, by the way, you can find Jerome at D3V3LOPING.com. Basically, it's developing, but with the E's as threes. So that'll be in the show notes, but just so you know, you can find Jerome there. So Jerome, will you give our listeners a little bit about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, it was a balmy Saturday afternoon. My mom was asleep because she did a C-section. I'm kidding. So I was born at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. My dad was in military intelligence. He was a jump master, the hero's hero that I think many kids aspire to be. And as I was matriculating through high school, I had the opportunity to go to West Point. He's like, "Man, that would be a great idea." And mind you, I graduated in 2001, right? So this is right before the war started. And there was one guy ahead of me who did go to West Point the year before, and they were like, hey, you can go be with Greg. It would be amazing. And I'm really glad that I didn't do that, right? Not because I'm not patriotic or have allegiance to America, but maybe I'm just a wimp, right? The thought of going to a foreign country to get shot at just didn't excite me. And, Greg, who is like my big brother, he went and did that. And that he lost friends who he spent a tremendous amount of time with, and I was just like, man, like our decisions make a huge impact on where we end up. And so my path was different. I went to North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. I got an engineering degree, played football for 4 years there, got out of school, started as a structural engineer, did that for a few years, got on a leadership track, identified as a high potential, continue to grow in my career. And then in 2009, the recession came. And some of the folks that were helping me navigate corporate America and giving me opportunities to progress my career were eliminated. And so I got stuck in this job that I hated. And I was in that job for 30 days or 30 months, 29 days, and 5 hours, right? I applied for 100 jobs over the course of the time I was in there because I was just trying to get moving. I was trying to get out. And I was like, I never want to be in this place again, right? I never want to be in a place where I hate my job. Eventually, I got out, got into a financial analyst role. At that point, I had my MBA. And they told me, hey, if you don't get a promotion in the next however many months, the bonus that you had in your old job is going to get cut back. I was just like, what do you mean? You guys just hired me. You knew what my comp was when I came in. So, I left. I went out and started doing consulting for a small consulting firm. I get there, and I mean, it's just a series of these stumbles, right? And I'll wrap it up and put a bow on it in a second. I get to this new job, and things are going well. My boss says, hey, you charged the admin budget last week. And I said, yeah, my project was over. There's about a week lag in between that one ending and this new one starting. He said, look, son, you will either take vacation next time or figure out how to make sure that your projects align. I was like, but I'm done. I'm not going to charge a client for work that I'm not doing for them. He said, you should figure something out. He said, but I don't own the company. So I am going to go on the admin budget if I don't have somebody to bill. And he said, that is the last time that you will bill the admin budget. And you probably need to go back and fix your timesheet for what you just did. And I was like, I've been 100% billable since I got here. This doesn't make sense. So I gave him back his $10,000 signing bonus and I left and went to another company. And there we had great success, got to travel internationally, was on a plane every week. I didn't like that part of it, right? I enjoyed the travel, but I didn't like being gone all the time. And in order to take that role, I had to give up coaching football. So I was a guy who did engineering work or management work during the day. And then at 4:00 during football season, I was going to a high school and I was coaching football. And that was where I feel like I had my greatest impact. But when I was traveling, I didn't have the ability to do that anymore. So I gave up coaching for what was like $600 a month in after-tax dollars. And I felt like I sold my true gift and my passion pretty cheap. But I needed to provide for myself and my family and grow. And so the next job, it set me up for the next job. And that last job was building a $20 million division for a construction company. We had real estate, we had engineering design, and we actually had the construction piece. I was employee number 2. We went from 2 employees to like 175 over the course of 80 months or 8 months. And then at the end of the year, we built that client for about $20 million. And you know what my pat on the back was? $30,000 bonus. And we made $6 million in profit that year. It's like, oh, there's something completely wrong with this. And so I asked, hey, you guys gonna give me a promotion or raise? I mean, we built something out of nothing. Nah, you're overpaid already. Okay. And so, I thought to myself, I don't have to actually make $20 million a year. I don't actually have to make all the money that I'm making because I didn't grow my lifestyle as I was, increasing my income. And so after 2 rounds of layoffs, I decided that I was walking out of corporate America because I got tired of the holidays, dreading the holidays because I knew I was going to have to lay folks off. And we did that 2 years in a row. And I was just like, enough is enough. There's nothing fun about spending Christmas Day through New Year's deciding who's going to have a job in the new year. And so I went back to something that we were doing or thinking about when I was in college. My friend Duran and I were sitting on the stoop, and for those who don't know, that's the stairs that go up and down between floors. And we were talking about what we wanted to do. We knew we didn't want to have jobs. We knew we wanted our time decoupled from our income. And we realized that we were paying rent to somebody, and the whole complex was paying pretty much the same rent. He was making about $700,000 a year, and we never talked to him. We never seen him. We didn't know what he looked like. Now, the issue was, right, my dad was a soldier. So we didn't have business owners. We didn't have wealthy folks coming over for dinner to eat with us. So access to that network wasn't something that I had. And it took me going through corporate America. And then even after I left corporate America, going into banks and getting turned down. And I was sitting on the porch of one of the flip houses I was working on, since I couldn't get into multifamily because I couldn't get financing. And the guy pulled up. He said, "Hey, let me see your house. Let's see what type of finishes you guys are doing. We're doing something down the street." And in that exchange, he mentioned that he was going to buy a property. He was going to buy a 23-unit building. And I begged and pleaded, it's like, "Please, man, let me get in with you. I really want to do apartments." They said I can't do it because I don't have experience. And he left me out. But fortunately, the guy did not take his offer. And so I get into the deal, kind of backdoor. You know, he needed to put a team together. I had a pretty extensive project management background. This was an extremely heavy value add. And so our first deal, you know, we did new roof, new parking lot, landscaping, added a half bath, added a laundry room on the first floor, granite, removed walls, paint. Like, we did the whole gamut. And they needed somebody that could help make sure that that process went smoothly. And so that's how I got into the apartment space.
Amazing. And what an intro for football, Westmont. You say engineering, and then from there into investment real estate, from this idea of being, I have a couple notes here, take control of your own destiny and not be dependent on a corporate job, right? And whether it be layoffs, whether it be bonuses, whether it be the getting paid for the value that you have, and this arbitrary, you're already getting overpaid based upon what's standard, right? The standard of what we could hire someone else out to do, right? And so instead you said, all right, I'm going to figure out something else where I can take control of my own destiny, and multifamily investment real estate became the vehicle. So before we dive into some of the nuts and bolts of that exact transition and some of the things you're doing now, I'm curious, who was Jerome growing up? And not just the athlete, not just the hard worker, but give me something where you were given a certain gift, Jerome, and connect the dot with where you are today as an entrepreneur and as a coach and as an educator, right? Connect those dots. What strength or gift were you given, and how does that impact how you help others today?
The immediate thought that comes to mind is when I was about 5, and my mom was my best friend as a kid. I'm an only child. And so we were playing on a blanket in the front yard, and Lonnie was the trash man. He was the guy on the back of the truck. He would grab the trash, throw it in the back, and then he pulled the lever. And that was my favorite part. When he pulled the lever, I got to hear the noise. It was like, oh, this is awesome. And "Mommy, I want to be a trash man when I grow up." You know, Lonnie gets home at 2. My dad didn't get home until after 6. You know, he had the lifestyle. He got to play with big machines. And my mom looked at me the way that only a mom could and said, "Babe, you like Nikes. You like nice things. That isn't going to support the lifestyle that you want to live if you want to maintain the standard." She said, "You got to dream bigger." And I was like, "But he's got a great life. Like, he gets to do all the cool stuff." And I didn't get it at that point, right? But the point that she made was like, dream big and your dreams should be real, whatever they are. And that was the gift that she gave me. It made me realize that you can be an encourager. You can have anything you want. The thing that I think we miss in society today, because it's so microwave, is that you've actually got to make some sacrifice, right? There is a price of admission for the things that you want to have. And so I've been driven to that. I'm willing to pay whatever price for whatever I say I want, and nothing can get in the way. There is nothing that makes me believe that I can't have that. And so, you know, I give that all back to my mom. And then seeing like discipline and work ethic from my dad's side it made the whole picture come together. He worked Carolina half days. It's 6 to 6 or 6 to 6. You get to pick which six, but it's 6 to 6. So
You had the
work
mom
really
who was
hard.
encouraging
And
you, the mom who was teaching you to dream big, who was thinking you think outside the box, and your dad who was working hard and providing and figuring out a way that would move you towards your dreams. I heard a good quote, and it goes like this: "Consider it a privilege, not a sacrifice, to pay the price for my dreams." And it's one of the quotes that I try to read on all my goal sheets every time I look at it. It's really a privilege, right? It's an opportunity to go out and sacrifice and work hard and figure it out. That's actually a privilege, right? To pay the price for what big dreams you have in your heart, and for your family and for your community and for helping others. That is the price of admission, right? So shifting a bit here, before your success as an educator now and as a coach, let's walk through that transition from, hey, corporate job, first multifamily property, 23 units, value add. Oh, wow, I think we have something going here. Walk us through that transition of burn the ships, and now you're all in.
Yeah, so I burned the ships before I even got into the game. I was so naive and uneducated. When I walked out the door, I thought because I had an 800 credit score, some cash in the bank, and all these certifications, an MBA, a Six Sigma Master Black Belt, engineering license, like I thought those things were going to matter when I went to the bank, and they told me that it didn't, because I hadn't signed a loan on an apartment deal. And it was pretty frustrating. It was humbling. It was a lot of things. But so I had to shift. And so the pivot was to go into single family fix and flip, did a few of those. And that experience was really, really, really beneficial when I started estimating costs on apartment rehabs. And actually understanding how things go together and working through the process of scheduling these things, getting the right contractors in the right sequence, all the actual nuts and bolts of making the sausage that is a value add property. It's really easy for people to say, hey, yeah, we're going to go in, we're going to do a rehab, we're going to bump the rents to $150. So what happens when the flooring guy doesn't show up? What do you do? Or did you think about that plumbing and how you're going to have to adjust that in order to get the flow that you want? Like, what does that really take? And so I learned that stuff in these really aggressive. One of the rehabs we did was close to $100,000. And just getting that deep, deep knowledge on how to actually execute the value add thing allows us to do a better job as asset managers. And so when we go in and model something, we're doing it from experience, not from experience of doing 100 and 200 apartments, but knowing the process that you actually go through to execute it and what that costs and what can go wrong, so you can have your contingency plans and get through the process. Because at the end of the day, once you're in, you have to finish. There isn't turning around and folding the tents and surrendering. Whatever it costs, however long it takes, you just have to be willing to endure it. And I don't think a lot of people understand that when they've got those 3 sentences on the paper on this is a business strategy for executing our value add on an apartment building.
Would you walk us through an example, maybe a recent deal that you did for an apartment complex from start to finish, and just sort of maybe the opportunity, the challenge, the conflict you went through, and then perhaps, I don't know if you sold it or just maybe refinanced back out. Walk us through kind of a deal story.
Yeah, I think my favorite one is called Myers Point at Greensbriar. It's our first deal in Greensboro, North Carolina. It's a 20 unit. We purchased it for $840. I won't give you the money that we put into the rehab, but we've renovated 14 of the 20 units at this point, or maybe even 15. It started out pretty rough, man. We hired a property manager who wasn't actually capable of performing the things that we thought they could. And so we had to jump in and start executing our business plan, getting the vacant units turned. We bought that property thinking we were at 80% occupancy. We thought there were 4 vacancies. Turns out that there were 7, and we had to work through that. We thought we were going to renovate 4 or 5 units in the first year. We renovated 12. And so we went through this process of dealing with and fighting with vacancy. And what we did in that space was figured out what indicators are actually telling you if you're going in the right place. when you think about modeling, you put these numbers in and it gives you this average for rent so that you can figure out what your gross income number is going to be. And you project against that. And then everybody that I know models as a percentage off of the income that they generate. But the reality of the situation is there's real numbers behind that. And, throwing off a percentage or two can be a very big change. And so one of the mistakes that I made when we were modeling that was I modeled the property taxes wrong, right? I left a zero off, right? And so I had it at 1,000, it was 10,000. The property made over $100,000 that year. So it wasn't a huge deal in the grand scheme of things, but it's just a reminder of the things that can go wrong and having to really understand the details of what we're doing here. So we've taken average collected rents from $500 to $650 now. There's a blend of the legacy residents plus new residents. New units are getting rented for $685. When we purchased it, it was at like $525. And we're in the period now where we're cleaning up our financials, getting our trailing three together so that we can go to the bank and refi out. And it's our expectation that we'll be able to refinance all of the original capital that was invested in the deal within the next 6 months or so. And then we'll be able to deliver that back to our partners. We prefer JVs over syndication. So our partners in the JV will get their cash back. And we'll be looking for another deal for them to go back into if they want to do that. If not, the folks that signed the loan have that box checked and they can go off and do their own deal, which we encourage people to do because we want to bring people in the game. When I talk to people normally, I ask, how many people do you know that own apartments? And usually they say you. And so it's my interest to expose more people and have more people qualified so that if they want to get into the space, they can without, actually having to go through a deal with me or one of the folks that I'm working with today.
Excellent. I love that. So couple thoughts. You mentioned JV over syndications, and you mentioned the refi. And for capital gains tax, the neat part about the refi, it's not refinancing is not a taxable event, which is nice. So it's tax-free money. Now, if and when you go to sell that, before the show, we mentioned what maybe a strategy you've used or someone you're considering, and you mentioned an opportunity zone. So would you walk us through a little bit about your strategy there if and when you do sell something like a Myers Point or a different property you've sold, and looking at opportunity zones and why you like those so much?
Yeah, so this part really excites me, Brett. So we've got 6 acres under contract. We've just rezoned it from 72 to 120 in the opportunity zone. And it's going to be our first foray into new construction, right? We're going to do a mixture of townhomes and 3-story walk-ups. And, if we were to sell Myers Point this year, I believe everybody would be ready to go into our new deal technology realm. But we like the opportunity zone space because I feel like really the 1031 is kind of just kicking the can down the road. You got a 1031 into the next 1031 into the next 1031. And unfortunately, a lot of people end up in a space where they don't actually have the money to pay the taxes, so you can't get out. The things I love about the opportunity zone, and I'm not a CPA, right? But the base understanding that I have about it is you can put your money in, your gains. And even if you don't have gains and you want to put money in, you can put the money in. Those gains are allowed to grow without you paying taxes on them. And I think, I don't remember what the year is, but I think it's about 7 years, those deferred taxes have to get paid. But I think there's a real opportunity for some folks, if you can bank some losses along the way, to reduce that amount that you have to pay in capital gains on that. So, if there's some type of correction over the next 6 or 7 years, you may have opportunity to reduce your obligation there. And then in addition to that, the gain that was invested grows tax-free. And so if you stay in the property for 10 years, well, on your exit, you don't have to pay any taxes on that money. And for me, that's really exciting. The government is going to incentivize you to do what they want. And so I'm trying to be opportunistic. I want to do what they want. And particularly in East Greensboro, it's an area that hasn't had a tremendous amount of investment over the past 20 or 30 years. And so we feel like it's prime for the folks that we want to house. We do workforce housing as a business strategy. We like teachers, firefighters, police officers, people who are working in retail. We think they make the world go round. And so we want to make sure that they have quality, safe, and affordable housing. And so that's our strategy. What most affordable housing is today is build a Class A and wait 30 or 40 years, and then maybe it'll be renovated or updated, and those folks can move into something like that. And I personally believe that they deserve something a little bit nicer.
Hey, I love that. And so 6 acres, building some apartments, some townhomes, some 3-story walk-ups. And then the key thing, I think you said 1031, kicking it down the road. Whereas in AutoZone, we have some key opportunities to, we do have to pay some of that tax within 7 years. But anything above and beyond that grows over a 10-year period is going to be tax-free, which is definitely attractive. And then if you happen to have losses along the way, you can use that to offset those as well. Overall, the opportunity zones is a great way to defer capital gains taxes. And I also like the comment that the government's going to incentivize you to do what they want, right? This is the study of macroeconomics. This is why they have these legal loopholes in place so that investors are incentivized to spur economic growth, such as doing a 1031 or an Oz or deferred sales trust or charitable remainder trust, different things that the government says, if you do this with your money, we'll give you a break, which in turn actually creates more jobs, creates construction, creates more tax revenue, which is ultimately what they want and what we need to help keep the whole U.S. going here. So any other thoughts on that, or is that a good summary?
No, I think that's a great summary. Way more articulate than me.
Well, thanks. We work as a team, right? Now, I'm curious, when did you shift from, hey, me and, corporate job, now coaching others and bringing them in with you? And as a part of that, what's the most rewarding part of doing just that?
When they get a deal, right? So either I'm in the deal with them or they do the deal by themselves. For me, there is no difference whether I make a dime or not off of them getting into the space, because it's just proof of concept, right? I believe that somebody started out, they wanted to do this and they got to do it. And so if I'm close enough and I want to do something, hey, maybe I can do it too because the person down the street just did it. That social proof of concept is enough for me to be extremely excited and ready to celebrate what they're doing. So that's absolutely the most rewarding piece of it. But again, I want to expose more people to the space because I think we've boxed a lot of people out. And I just don't think it's fair. I think other people should have opportunity.
Absolutely. The social proof of concept. I love the way you put that. And it's the belief that, hey, if the guy down the street or my friend down the street or so-and-so down the street can do this, I can do it too. And that's really the fabric of society, right? Having a mentor or somebody who you can see, touch, feel, know is doing it. If he's doing it, hey, I can do it too. And you're right. Otherwise, it's hard to know. It's easy to fall into the trap of limitations in our minds and our hearts because we don't have that other person who's broken that barrier, who's done the thing, whatever that we want to do. So love that, and that's great. Just curious, how many people have you helped along the way, or maybe give me a story of one journey where you're like, hey, I helped him do this or her do this, and some of the outcomes that have come from that.
Yeah, I'll use another one of my good friends from college. So my friend Devin, he did his first deal. It was in Greensboro. We actually all did it together. In that deal, we bought the property was listed on LoopNet for 1.5. We bought it for 1.375. The appraisal came in at 1.75. Right. So before we even got started, there was 400,000 there, plus whatever our contribution was. And so we were smiling all the way in, right? And that property wasn't a heavy value add property. It's a operational value add. The current or the past owner was running it as student housing. They were paying everything, lights, water, internet, gas, they were paying all that stuff. And we said, it's separately metered. We're going to let you guys have all that back. And oh, by the way, most of the people that live here aren't students. So we're going to transition this to workforce housing and let adults pay their bills and pay their rent. And it's been an amazing success. We've basically been able to keep rents the same, but decrease the expenses pretty dramatically because we don't have, I think it was like 60 or 65 or maybe even $70,000 worth of expenses each year in just utility bills. I mean, there were people who had 900 square foot townhomes with $400 a month air conditioner bills. Like, it's just the electricity that was powering those things just was extremely inefficient, and it showed a complete lack of responsibility because somebody else was paying the bill. And so, we like that type of stuff where we can be creative, but, as we look through the P&L, hey, here's what's wrong. Hey, we can actually fix this. We can do something different here. And so that's really exciting. So that got him into the game. He's working his way out of corporate America. And, this is going to be great for him, his wife, and two beautiful daughters.
Love that. And just curious on the utilities, some of the tactical here real quick. Are these like master meter? Now you're individually meter them? Are you getting more efficient air conditioning systems or appliances or all of the above? Walk us through maybe the top 3 things to take that utility bill down.
Yeah, so the first thing that we check for is it individually metered. And if it is, because in North Carolina, we're not able to use RUBS, that ratio utility billing system, we actually have to have a bill that people can pay. And so for the electricity at that property, all of them were individually billed. For about half of the units, the water was individually billed. And for the other piece, we're rolling it into the rent right now. The next step on that will be to get individual meters in each one of the units for the water. And that will further drop our utility obligation. And then the gas was separately metered, so they were able to do that. From an efficiency standpoint, if you're going to pay bills, and what I'm seeing with a lot of quads or townhome communities is there's one pipe going into the building. And so the one thing you're going to do if you're going to pay the bill is switch everything out. Low flow sink, low flow shower head, low flow toilet. Those things will dramatically reduce the expenses. And the payback, I think, on them is less than 2 years. And so if you're somebody, and I think most business plans are a minimum of 5, it makes sense to make that improvement. And then depending on the size, Fannie has a program, I think it's called the Green Program, where you can go in and make those adjustments and you'll get preferential treatment on your interest rate. And so, there's, again, the government's going to incentivize you to do the things that they want you to do. And so I think those are probably the top things, just from a billing perspective, as well as just tactical. I'm going to grin and bear it. My competitors are paying this. I'm going to have to pay it too. Here's how we can limit our exposure. I mean, I had, we've got a couple of quads, right? And I had $1,000 water bill when the bill's usually $200 one month. It's just like, what's going on? And so we went in and swapped all those toilets that month because, had we done that already, I would have never had that leaky running deal going on. And of course, you can get some money back once you do that from the water company. But, for us, it's just like, we don't ever want that to happen again during our ownership. So let's go ahead and take care of it.
Love it. Yeah. Set the system in place and fix it the first time, the right time, as soon as you can. Curious, top 2 wealth building strategies, right? If you had 2 things to say to somebody who A, has already built some wealth, or B, is just starting out and building some wealth with commercial real estate, what are the top 2 for you?
Yeah. So, a lot of people who are educators will try to make it as if you can do real estate with no money. I think I don't really think wholesaling is investing in real estate. I consider that marketing and not actually, buying an asset, adding value in some way, shape, or form, and then either keeping it for cash flow or selling it. And so the first thing I think you have to do is be financially fit. Don't make your expenses as much as your income, right? And then use that gap that you're creating to save and grow your wealth. And so if real estate is your play, I don't think 401k is where the money goes. I think you save that money outside of a 401k or in some type of self-directed IRA so that you can actually push that money to where you want to go. And I know that we're taught, hey, it's 401k, get the match, all that other stuff. That's great if you don't plan on using that money for another 30 or 40 years. But if you're trying to get as big a shovel as you can to get into real estate as quickly as you can, then you probably don't want to put your money there. So, the first thing is take care of your personal business. Run your personal finances like a business. That allows you to start creating wealth because instead of being negative, you become positive with the actual cash you have at hand. And then you go buy real estate because you're positive. I don't see real estate as a way to get out of debt. I don't see real estate as a way to create income right away. There's some form of investment. And with multifamily in particular, you're buying a business. It's not likely that your business that you just started or you just bought is going to be profitable in the first year if you bought it at a discount. There's going to be something that goes into it where you have to make some investment in order to make that thing the goose that it needs to be to keep laying those golden eggs. And so for me, it's really, hey, start with yourself first. Work your job, work your second job, get rid of all your debt, and then start building as much savings as you can and put that money in a place where you can actually deploy it, if real estate is your play, into real estate. And I do believe real estate has asymmetrical returns, and specifically multifamily. That's not something that gets outsourced. It's not like buying a tech stock, right? The tech stock can go to zero. At the minimum, your real estate is going to be worth something as long as there's a building there. And I guess the other piece of that, there's tremendous amount of tax benefit in the asset class, which you can't get anywhere else, and the ability to leverage, right? So our loan on that deal was 1.1 million that I talked about with Devin. That $400,000 in equity that was created, that's ours, even though we're using the bank's money for the 1.1. So, whatever we brought is money that's at risk if we don't perform, but that equity is, that's asymmetrical in your ability to grow. And so, we feel like as long as you buy the deal right and you've got a competent operator, it's going to be very difficult to lose money in real estate, especially at the multifamily level, because it's not what's happening next door, right? It's value based on your ability to make a profitable business. And so as long as you're operating it and running it well, I think you can probably make your business pretty profitable.
Absolutely. I can see how you're a great coach to get people inspired to go and take action, right? Because it's really right there, right? And you do a great job of breaking it down and making it simple for our audience. By the way, to remind you guys, you can find all about Jerome Myers at D3V3LOPING.com. That's developing.com. Change the E's to threes to connect with Jerome. Now, Jerome, I'm curious on some of your top things for a lightning round. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Your favorite book you read in the last 6 months?
Millionaire Success Habits by Dean Graziosi.
Favorite podcast that you're listening to right now?
This one's going to be self-serving, Brett. I listen to the Dreamcatchers podcast. I'm the host. We tell the stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, giving people that social proof, right? Talk to people from a bunch of different backgrounds, and they give us those tactics on how they actually caught their dream. I think we're taught to chase, and there's a whole lot of conversation about the process. I like completion. I like for us to finish. And so I'm going to plug the podcast there.
Best restaurant in North Carolina?
I like this place called Lux Lounge. It's totally unhealthy. You get some good macaroni and cheese, fried pork chops, collard greens, yams. Like, it feels like Thanksgiving over and over and over again. But the pricing's really reasonable and the food is great.
Excellent. That concludes the lightning round, and now we're moving to our last question. And this is actually the most important question. I think our listeners look forward to the most, and it really centers on your values, Jerome. Okay, and it gets a chance to get to know you a little bit more, and also provide some inspiration. So, very, very curious. How do you stay centered in your values? And then, second, how do you stay encouraged to reach to new heights for new goals?
Ooh, this is a good one. Uh, how do I stay centered, right? So I told the story about the guy who told me I need to charge the admin budget, not to charge the admin budget, take vacation. At that point, I realized that I didn't do stuff for money anymore, right? And so it's all about, for me, it's all about being able to look myself in the eyes, in the mirror, and we call it a mirror moment, and say, I did the best that I could do, and I can sleep with a clear conscience today, right? I'm going to be accountable to myself. And I think we struggle with that. We justify pretty regularly the things that we do or don't do. But for me, I'm extremely aggressive on my self accountability and encouraging others around me to hold me accountable to the things that I say are important. Um, and then I forgot the second part of the question. I apologize.
How do you stay encouraged to charge forward to reach to new heights or new goals after you've accomplished so much? How do you
So
stay encouraged to keep that fire going?
yeah. So in the organization Dreamcatchers, that's on the backside of the podcast where we do our coaching, we have a mastermind called the Powwow at the Mountaintop. And in that powwow, it's my responsibility as chief inspiration officer at Dreamcatchers to inspire other people to reach to their goal. And that for me is it. There are people that I haven't met who are counting on me to do the things that have been placed in my heart to do. And I execute from that place. I don't want to let those people down, even though I don't know what they look like or where they are in the world. I know that they're relying on me to do that thing, whatever it is. And, whether it's housing or speaking at a specific event, putting together a conference, whatever it is, I know that it's been placed in me in order to make the world a better place. And so that's the inspiration.
I love that, Jerome, and bringing it full circle. I think that second question I asked you about what gift you were given, I think it's the gift of encouragement, right? Which sounds like was what your mom had as well. So, have you had your mom on the podcast to run one of these events to help encourage some of your listeners?
No, my mom's pretty shy. She wants to just hang out with Kaya and Leah, which are my two girls, and play dress up and do that kind of stuff. She's kind of over me. I'm not so much fun anymore. She prefers to play with them.
For sure. Hey, well, I want to thank you for being on the show and sharing all of your wisdom and insight. Any last words for the listeners, and please remind them where they can connect with you.
Yeah, man. So if you guys are interested in our operating company, you've already heard about our developing.com website. If you're interested in multifamily education, getting into the space, either to get education as a key principal, somebody signing a loan, or as a passive investor even, or you want to be a deal lead, we've created an educational brand. It's called Myers Methods. And the website is myersmethods.com, MYERSMETHODS.com. There you can get a free 4-step guide. It breaks down why we like JVs over syndication in a whole lot more depth than what we talked about here. And the other thing I'd like to promote, if this may come out in time, but it may not, is our conference. We're doing the Mid-Atlantic Multifamily Investing Conference, March 20th through the 22nd in Greensboro, North Carolina. And, if you just type in Mid-Atlantic Multifamily Investing Conference, you'll be able to find it on Eventbrite. And we'd love to connect with people who this message resonates with, because for us, we're just scouring the earth looking for people who are looking for ways to avoid capital gains taxes, ways to create wealth for their family. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, improving the world and creating wealth for others. We call it doing good while doing well.
I love it, Jerome. It's been a real pleasure, and appreciate your time, appreciate your wisdom, and sharing your story with us. And that concludes another episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions Podcast. I want to thank our listeners for listening to another show. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options when they go to sell their highly appreciated multifamily properties, businesses, high-end primary homes. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as an opportunity zone, 1031 exchange, deferred sales trust is the best way for you to create and preserve more wealth. And with that, we look forward to seeing you on the next show. Thank you so much. Well, that concludes our show with Jerome Myers from North Carolina. Again, very inspirational guest, and also tons of wisdom, and just love the way he's giving back and really becoming, social proof of concept for everyone in his sphere, and really for everyone who's listening to this show, that with enough determination, with enough coaching, with enough persistence, you can achieve your next business venture and your next wealth opportunity to help more people, which I love. And so I want to also just share a few other thoughts here. Take control of your own destiny. Don't be dependent on a corporate job. I can certainly relate with that. And, building passive wealth through real estate, to me, is hands down the best way to do that, because you get a chance to either partner with others, but B, help in your community, and then also have all of the tax write-offs and incentives there as well. Dream big. I like when he talked about the price of admission. We all have to pay the price for admission. It's not going to come easy, but if it were easy, of course, everyone would do it, but it's definitely going to be worth it. Consider it a privilege, not a sacrifice, to pay the price for your dreams. What are your dreams? What are your goals? Have you written them down? And consider it a privilege, not a sacrifice, to achieve those. You have one life to live, and so let's get after it. Also, becoming financially fit for those who are maybe newer to investing, right? Having a budget and creating some margin. I like the thought of the 401k, not investing so much in the 401ks, but more so investing in passive commercial real estate or active commercial real estate and saving up that amount. My idea for that would be, instead of waiting till you're 60 to enjoy a lot of those benefits, maybe if you do passive real estate now, you could retire at 55 or 50 or 45 and have more income right now versus waiting, like he said, 30 years. I also connect it with the self-accountability, but also encouraging others to hold you accountable for what's important to you. So who are you letting into your life? Who are you being vulnerable with? Who are you opening up to? And then let's talk quickly about opportunity zones and 1031 exchanges and a deferred sales trust. And so opportunity zones are a great way to defer tax, as long as you basically have a longer time horizon, is really my take on those. Meaning, 7 to 10 years plus, you don't mind being illiquid or just keeping those funds there with a different owner operator is what I've kind of seen with these. So I like opportunity zones. I think there's good opportunities, but also make sure that you're not buying the deal just because it's in an opportunity zone, but you're buying it for the fundamentals of the actual real estate. Some of these opportunity zones the prices have gone even higher because they're in the opportunity zone. And so some of that savings has been, the market, in other words, has adjusted for that, and you're overpaying for that. So just make sure the fundamentals make sense on those. And I'm sure Jerome's deal does make sense, and he'd have a great opportunity there to build what he's building. The deferred sales trust, on the other hand, you're literally getting out of real estate to start with, is at least what I found the best way to take advantage of it in this highly appreciated marketplace, until and if you find a deal, and or you're using it just to diversify into multiple properties. Meaning, let's just say 2, 3, 4, 5 different syndications, of which the deferred sales trust allows you to do. It's kind of like a self-directed IRA. You sell, you pay off all your debt, the proceeds go into the trust, and now you're in a deferral state, at which point you can now move it into a deal or 2 or 3 or 4, and then also keep it liquid, meaning stocks, bonds, mutual funds, so that in case you want to access the cash quicker. So depending on your needs, just figure out what are your needs. Same thing with the 1031 exchange. If you feel you have a good opportunity or a good deal to go into, and you found the deal, hey, do the 1031. But don't overpay just because you want to defer the tax. Make sure you're buying it, again, on the fundamentals of the real estate, not just to save in tax. So that about wraps it up for the show notes. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did. And if we can be of any help to you, reach out to us at capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. And we encourage you to look at, again, every tax deferral option that is out there, so that you can make great decisions when you sell your business, high-end primary home, real estate, or other highly appreciated asset. Thanks so much. See you next time.
You have just listened to another information-packed episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions with Brett Swarts. We hope you enjoyed today's show and found it helpful. Visit capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to access the show notes and to access more resources. Don't forget to leave a review and join us again next time.